Should you move to Denver, Colorado or Salt Lake City, Utah? Well, today I'm talking about some of the differences between the two places as I've lived in both. So stay tuned. Hi, this is Melissa Ballman, and I am a real estate agent here in the greater Salt Lake City area. So what that means, if you're looking at making a real estate move in the Salt Lake City metro area, I'd love to connect with you. Shoot me a text, send me an email, give me a call, whatever you have to do, but get in touch with me and let's talk about your real estate goals. But first, today, I'm going to talk to you about some of the differences in living in Salt Lake City, Utah versus Denver, Colorado, as I've lived in both. So first, one of the biggest things I really enjoyed about living in Salt Lake City, Utah versus Denver, Colorado is there is less of a population in Salt Lake City, or really Utah as a whole, than there is in Colorado, and specifically Denver, Colorado. And one of the perks of having less population equals less traffic. That's right. I remember, it was awful. Traffic was awful in Denver area. I was actually just out there at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, just before COVID hit with my son, and just driving was horrendous. Even he said something about how awful the traffic is in Denver. Now, we do have traffic here in Salt Lake City, don't get me wrong, but it's not nearly to the extent Denver, Colorado is, or those surrounding areas. So to kind of give you an idea, I live about 18 miles from downtown Salt Lake City. So in the morning when the traffic is heavy, it could take me anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes to get downtown if there's like an accident or bad weather, things like that. But generally speaking, if like I'm just going in the middle of the day, there's no traffic or anything, I'm looking at about 20-25 minutes, depending on which part of Salt Lake I'm going to in downtown. Now, one area that Salt Lake City and Denver is very similar is you have a lot of outdoorsy people. You have a lot of people that want to get outside and hike and bike and take walks and things like that. However, I do think Utah, you have a lot more people that are hunting and doing things like that as well, over what you would find like in Denver. And if you love the outdoors, I believe you have a ton more to do outdoors. Because the mountains and stuff are way more accessible in Salt Lake City than they are in Denver, Colorado. So I remember when I lived in Denver, you think that you're just gonna hop on up and go skiing or whatever. And I was surprised because the mountains are further away than I ever would have imagined after living there. It wasn't unusual to take an hour and a half, 2 hours with traffic to go skiing in Denver, whereas in Salt Lake City area, you have lots of different resorts all along the Wasatch Front. And so depending on if you're living in Salt Lake County, Utah County, Weber County, you could realistically be at a ski resort in 30 to 45 minutes, depending on what part of the valley you're coming from and which resort you're going to. So to kind of put that into perspective, if you're coming from, let's just say, the I-15 in the middle of Salt Lake County, and you even want to go as far as Park City and ski up there, you're looking at about a 45-minute drive, realistically, unless you're doing really fast, but you realistically are about 45 minutes to get from the center of Salt Lake County up to Park City Resort. I hope you're enjoying my video so far today. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell. That way you're alerted each week when I drop a new video. And if you haven't already, if you're on Facebook, hop on over to our group called Salt Lake Life. And there we talk about all things that have to do with living in Utah and the greater Salt Lake City area. Now, where Utah will fall short on that list compared to Colorado is nightlife, bars, things like that. You're not going to have nearly as much in Utah. You have more bars and restaurants and things like that in downtown Salt Lake City, but once you get outside of downtown, the bars and variety of restaurants and cuisine are going to diminish. And in Colorado, you definitely have more availability to those types of things. And with that, marijuana laws are very different. It is not legalized in Utah where it is in Denver, Colorado. So with that, it's pretty safe to say I found that in Salt Lake City, people tend to be more conservative. Now, when you're downtown or Park City, places like that, you have a lot more liberal people than you do in other parts of the state. But generally speaking, you are going to have more conservative people in Utah than you do in Colorado. So finally, let's talk some housing numbers. In March of 2021, the average sales price in Salt Lake County was just about $510,000, which I was shocked when I saw how high that has jumped recently. Now, there's two different areas that I found Denver Metro's area. One was from their board website, and their report was saying for a detached home in Denver area, the average sales price in March of 2021 was like $676,000. Now, you're kind of comparing apples to oranges there. I will tell you that, because my number for Salt Lake City, that's all housing types, whereas the Denver Board of Realtors, it was only reporting either detached or attached homes. But when I Googled it, according to Google, the average sales price in Denver in January 2021, I couldn't find an updated March 2021 number on Google, but in just a couple months before, in January 2021, the average sales price for a home in Denver was just about $600,000. So I think that $600,000 mark is going to be a little bit closer to all housing types, like I'm quoting you with Salt Lake City. Now, with housing, generally speaking, I do feel the houses in Utah are much bigger than they are in Denver. Now, of course, there's going to be pockets of areas where if you're in downtown Salt Lake City, you have little teeny tiny 1,000-square-foot houses. And if you're in Colorado and you're living out in the country, like, Elizabeth, Colorado, you may find a 3,000-square-foot house, which would be pretty equivalent to what you see in Salt Lake City. So take that with a grain of salt of where you're living and all of that. But generally speaking, houses are bigger in Salt Lake County than you would see in Denver. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you have any questions or want to talk about real estate, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here to help. But as always, make it a great day.